Hello, and thank you for joining us today in our studies of 2 Samuel. Today we're in 2 Samuel chapter 3. And as we mentioned yesterday in our start to reading through the chapter, there are a lot of things that are going to transpire here in chapter 3. Not all of them, as a matter of fact, most of them are not going to be things that were according to God's design or were necessarily things that God commanded or God even wanted to take place in the sense in which they did. But instead, they are simply the historical account of the things that happened. And in chapter 3, you have levels of historical intrigue and political allegiances shifting and all of the different thrilling types of narrative that you would see in a novel or that you would see in a Hollywood movie or in a TV series or something along those lines. And yet these are the things that actually happened. And so here in 2 Samuel chapter 3, you have several different phases of things taking place. And I want us to notice several of them, but also from the application side of things, how they teach us some lessons about how we deal with issues today. And so in the beginning, you recognize from the very first statements that this war is ongoing between the followers of Ishbosheth and the followers of David. And while it may not be a war of constant physical battles, it is definitely a war of supremacy in the minds of the people. And David is continuing to get stronger and stronger in the hearts of the people, and Ishbosheth is continuing to get weaker and weaker. One of the key characters in this is Abner. Abner used to be Saul's general. Now he is the one who has been propping up Ishbosheth. He's the one who put him on the throne. He has been the man behind Ishbosheth's power the entire time. And one of the first things that we see is a situation where you have suspicion without facts when it comes to Ishbosheth's actions toward Abner. In verses 3 and following, there is this situation that takes place with one of Saul's former concubines. And Ishbosheth is going to accuse Abner of going in and sleeping with her. Now notice, in this text, the accusation is made. It is not affirmed that Abner did this. As a matter of fact, Abner takes great affront at the accusation being placed, and basically he says, I don't deserve this. I have not acted in this way. How could you possibly call into question these things? If this is the way that you're going to be, I'm going to put David on the throne. And Ishbosheth can't answer him because he is so afraid of him, because Abner is the one who holds the true power. So many times there are people who will just spout off their suspicions and their paranoia without ever looking to get the facts to see whether or not that's right, or they won't believe the facts that are placed in front of them. Ishbosheth here has become paranoid. Ishbosheth is losing power. Ishbosheth is getting weaker, and he is becoming one who is losing his grip on whatever kingdom he has had. And he's turning on the very individual who has been the mainstay of helping to keep him in that place. Sometimes we are ones who form suspicions. Sometimes those suspicions are founded, and sometimes they're not. But until there are facts for those suspicions, we need to be very careful about voicing them, and certainly about making accusations based upon them. Because false accusations can do far more damage than the suspicions can that aren't based in fact. And so here you have Ishbosheth, who is going to ruin his kingdom. He is going to bring his kingdom down over suspicions that he has absolutely no way to prove. A second level of intrigue that comes into this situation is that Abner does exactly what he says he's going to do. He is going to go to David. And David is not going to balk at Abner's presence. Remember, David has known Abner for many years at this point. They have been at odds for decades. Abner is going to be one of them who is chasing David alongside of Saul. Remember, he's going to be the one in 1 Samuel who's going to be with David when David sneaks into the camp and steals the water pot and the spear from Saul's side, and he's going to be the one that gets goaded by David with that. There is a long history between David and Abner. And yet, when Abner comes and he makes this offer to deliver the kingdom to David, David is not obsessed with the history of Abner. Instead, David is one who is focused on the unity of Israel. What David wants more than anything is for all of his people to come together. And so, David is more than willing to accept Abner. And he listens to Abner, and he welcomes Abner, and he is going to treat Abner with grace and honor. David is not going to allow his own personal history and petty grievances to stand in the way of reconciliation. And so David is going to accept Abner, and he's going to make arrangements with Abner. And he is going to show the level of honor that he has in the way that he deals with Abner. But then you have the third level, and that is the personal level of intrigue. Because Joab is going to find out about Abner coming to David, and he is going to be furious. And the reason why is because in the midst of battle, Abner killed his brother Asahel. So Joab is going to conspire to take care of Abner and to get vengeance for his brother's death. And with what transpires in verse 26 and following, Joab is going to put vengeance over honor. Joab is going to surreptitiously call Abner back. David knows absolutely nothing about what has transpired and what Joab is planning and what Joab is doing. He has a treaty in place. He has a means of peace at the doorstep. And Abner is going to go back to meet Joab, and Joab is going to murder him because of the death of his brother. Joab was so keyed in on vengeance that he forsook his honor in order to take his enemy, or the one he perceived as his enemy. David is not going to know anything about this, and yet because David is the one who is supposed to be in control of Joab, it's going to look like David is the one who called for this. So David is going to have to take drastic steps to make sure that everybody in Israel knows he had absolutely nothing to do with Abner's death. Joab is not only by means of his vengeance going to set David back in his plans and in the things that he had done, he is going to set the entire country back, because now peace will not happen at this time. Ishbosheth is going to remain on the throne. And while the people will recognize that David had nothing to do with it by David's actions at the end of the chapter and by his proclamations concerning Joab, Joab allowed his vengeance to cut in the way of his honor and to get in the way of the actions that were being undertaken for the good of the people. And when we allow personal things to take precedence over the good of others, it will always be a negative in the end. These are some of the things that I have picked up from 2 Samuel chapter 3. I hope that they're valuable to you. I know that chapter 3 is a very interesting chapter in that regard of the events that take place. Next time, when we come back, we will continue the accounts in 2 Samuel by picking up with chapter 4. And I hope that you'll join us then. But until then, have a great day.